But first, a group that supports families with special educational needs and disabilities says it's worried new council plans are a cost-saving exercise. Derby City Council says it's developing a plan which would transform provision and working to improve the service for young people. The authority is due to discuss its plans for a dedicated schools grant management plan, which it's producing in partnership with parents, schools and other stakeholders at a meeting tomorrow. Chrissa is the founder of Sunshine Support. It supports carers, parents and professionals of children with special educational needs.
I've got 4 children, 2 of which have got special educational needs, but I'll focus particularly on the youngest one, who's got something called developmental language disorder, which is actually the most common learning difficulty, but people have seldom heard about it. And the way that we communicate to this particular little girl of ours is very, very different to perhaps the standard parent would speak to their children. So we use approaches like there's something called the low arousal approach. Physically, we have sensory processing difficulties. In fact, quite a few of my children have got sensory processing difficulties. And so we're looking constantly at ways to bring that stimulation down, whether it's temperature, light, noise, touch. There's a variety of different things. And we're very invested as parents in looking at our individual children and looking at their specific needs. And it is quite surprising to see that even the children without special educational needs, there's so much that you can learn from the kids who've got it that helps the ones that don't have it, if that makes sense.
So talk to me then about the support that is available to you now within the education system.
Despite what I do, I would say that there is still very, very little support. Schools and councils are constantly penny pinching, and I completely understand that there's a funding issue. One of our children, she has a very complex and well-written EHCP, which is an education, health and care plan. But constantly, even though we afford to have that EHCP put in place, it is constantly not being fulfilled. But the big thing for me is the culture and attitude. If you have the right attitude and you connect with children and you provide safe and secure connections and environments for them, many children can thrive and succeed. So it doesn't always come down to funding. And I get a little bit tired of funding constantly being the excuse behind why children's needs aren't being met.
Those are your concerns then now, but there are these new proposals that are being discussed by Derby City Council developing this plan. It says it would transform provision and improve it for young people. What is your understanding of what the council are proposing?
So we can see that they are aiming to transition children to mainstream. This really worries me. Mainstream school isn't always suitable. And there's an endless list of reasons why. And what worries me is that all children are being squeezed into this one-size-fits-all when that isn't just not going to fix the problem. We know that in Derby, children are travelling to schools outside of the area because we don't have enough provision within the city. The council have also said that they've worked, tirelessly to improve SEND for some time, is their quote. But we are not seeing this on the ground. Local parenting groups are cutting ties with the council because the parents are constantly reporting that they are repeatedly not being listened to.
You said that you have concerns and you're frustrated with the use of funding as an excuse, as you put it, for why care isn't being provided and support isn't being provided to the level and the quality of which you would like to see. But isn't actually that the issue here? If you've only got a certain pot of money, you have to use it in the most effective way, and that might mean helping more children and helping all the children who need the help, but maybe not being able to provide the quality because you simply don't have the cash.
One of my biggest focuses in the work that we do is about changing culture and attitude of staff who work within these fields, whether that's in schools, the local authority SEND team. What parents report to us is that they constantly feel like second-class citizens when they ask for help. We need that narrative to change, and that comes from education. We know that teachers are not given training in special educational needs and disabilities. That's a great big worry, because when that parent goes in and says, I have worries about my child, the teachers don't even know what they're looking for. We need to get away from this sort of bully boy tactic that is being taken against parents at the moment. You know, we're seeing children who can't attend school because of their difficulties or disabilities. Their parents are being fined and even threatened with prison. This is a massive case of injustice. But in terms of the money, these children who are travelling 50 miles to their schools, they're going to private, very, very expensive independent specialist schools. Some of these placements are over £250,000 each. What I think is, if the council actually built their own specialist schools, it would cost a fraction of that cost, and we could actually get far more children's needs met that way. £250,000 on one placement for a child could essentially be 5 or even 10 children educated locally in a local authority specialist school. But we don't have them. We don't have the spaces available. So the money is being misspent. The money is there. It's just being misspent.
Well, that's Chrissa Wadlow, the founder of Sunshine Support. And this is the thing to be discussed then. Chrissa there saying she's worried that these new council plans are a cost-saving exercise. Aspects of the plan are concerning. Well, Derby City Council says it's developing this plan to transform provision and working to improve provision for young people. Pauline Anderson is the Director for Learning, Inclusion and Skills from Derby City Council and is on the line right now. So is this then, Pauline, just penny pinching here to save money?
Good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk and just explore this massive issue. And I have to say, Chrissa and I have met before. We've had discussions, and much of what Chrissa says I absolutely agree with. You know, I am absolutely not here to defend any poor practice where parents are being made to feel like second-class citizens in any service. So I absolutely don't defend that.
No, but you are here to defend your plan, aren't you? So Chrissa there saying it's going to involve moving children with special educational needs into mainstream schooling, which she says is not helpful to those children. So what's the thinking behind that?
So, you know, as you said earlier, Martin, there are pressures on the high needs block, and we've been asked by the Department for Education to bring the spend back into a balanced budget over. So it is penny pinching. It is well. What we are doing is we're working towards getting the right support at the right time in the right place. What we know is, and we actually have families that we've spoken with or that we've discussed their situation with over the last few years who are not happy with the schools they're in. But Chrissa is right, we haven't had sufficient local places. So the top priority is actually exactly what she said, to build those local places. And that is the fundamental plan, that those additional places will be built in Derby. We're expanding St Clair's Special School. We've actually built expanded specialist places by over 200 places in the last few years. So we totally recognise that. But we also recognise that, you know, just building separate schools for our young people is not necessarily the best way to include them in life and in society. And when we talk to the young people themselves, and we're just about to develop some great peer research with young people themselves, they tell us they want to be more included, they want to be more involved in normal life, not to be separate. So there are some families and some young people who really want to be more part of their local community. And that's what this plan is aiming to bring about.
But that may work for some children, and as Chrissa was saying, every child, of course, is different. But how you're saying that you're working tirelessly to improve SEND, and you've been doing that for some time, but that isn't what parents are seeing on the ground. That is not what Chrissa is seeing from parents and their experience. Where is it
No.
going wrong at the moment?
Well, actually, we have improved services, we have expanded provision, and we are spending more in our mainstream SEND services than any other area in the East Midlands. So we are putting a lot of money and focus in there. And Chrissa herself knows it's very expensive to provide services to parents. In her own business, it costs £94.50 plus VAT an hour to provide advocacy and support for parents, and that's the work of Sunshine Support. So she knows this is expensive and intensive and expert work that's needed.
But is £250,000 to send a child to a private school justified?
Well, I think sometimes it is, because some children need highly specialised medical and clinical support that can't be provided anywhere else, and that will always be the case. What we're talking about here is getting the right child with the right level of support, and actually some children need, believe it or not, they're asking for less support. They want more independence. They want to have a good life, to perhaps be able to travel, get into a job. We have very low rates of employment for young people.
If all this is the case,
needs.
and this will genuinely help parents and also children, where is the communication going wrong there? Because as Chrissa was saying, parents are saying that they feel like second-class citizens when they ask for help. Teachers are not given the training that they need to help children with special educational needs. Yeah. So what I'll say again, what is going wrong here?
I think the lens that Chrissa sees it through is through her organisation. Her business is Sunshine Support. Parents come to Chrissa's business when they need help, when things are not going as well as they should be, and I absolutely acknowledge that. Actually, what you're not hearing from are the thousands of parents who are having a successful time, whose children are happy in their schools, but we're hearing it through the lens of a support service that, you know, is there for people when things are not quite right. So that's what I would say there.
All right, we'll have to leave it there, I'm afraid, Pauline, but thank you so much for coming on to talk me through that. Pauline Anderson from Derby City Council, talking about these provisions, the new provisions for children with special educational needs and disabilities, as well as their families, and that meeting taking place tomorrow.